His limo and his entourage showed up a little early here. He's hot off his national debut on the Jim Bohannon Show. He came in here with an entourage, sunglasses, talked to my people. Greg Willard is a professor at St. Louis University Law School. He's also the KTRS Legal Analyst, and I guess apparently Jim Bohannon's legal analyst as well. Good morning, Greg Willard.
Good morning, McGraw.
All right, so when last we left this topic, it was a couple weeks ago, and we didn't get to it, but you said walking off the air the other day, a couple weeks ago, hey, there's no mechanism to appoint a lieutenant governor. Didn't you say that?
It's confusing. There's no specific mechanism for appointment.
Yeah.
It's confusing, yes.
And then yesterday we find out that the new governor appointed a lieutenant governor. So we now know that Mike Parsons is not listening to this show. What is going on, Greg Willard?
Well, what is going on is it all emanates from the travails of our former governor, Eric Greitens, and he resigned.
Right.
And it's very clear under the Missouri Constitution, the lieutenant governor succeeds.
Okay.
And then Lieutenant Governor Parson raised his right hand and became our governor. At that moment, then we had a vacancy in the office of lieutenant governor. As we have had 11 times, count them, 11 times in Missouri's history, we have had a vacancy in the office of lieutenant governor. So the question, as you pointed out, and we talked, as you said the other day, is, okay, now what?
Right.
It's sort of the old Warner Wolf Sports, well, let's go to the tape.
Let's go to the videotape.
Let's go to the Constitution. The Missouri Constitution has a couple of provisions that are very important as to this. Number one, the Constitution says there shall be a lieutenant governor. Number two, the Constitution provides, quote, the governor shall fill all vacancies in public office unless otherwise provided by law, ... end quote.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you and I in our 8th grade civics class would say, well, we've been to the tape long enough, close the book, we get it.
Right.
Well, were it only so simple.
That's why our guy goes to the end of the playbook to get the full story.
So, as otherwise provided by law, that generally is known to mean by a law, a statute passed by the legislature. Well, the Missouri legislature has, in fact, passed a law, and it provides that when any vacancy occurs in a state office filled by election, other than in the office of lieutenant governor, ... the vacancy shall be filled by the governor.
Oh, well, that seems pretty cut and dry.
Well, so now you have the Constitution, which, unless otherwise provided by law, then the governor has the appointment power. And then you have the statute that says, well, for all public offices, other than lieutenant governor and a few others, the governor shall fill that vacancy. And so the question, McGraw, which is now posed, is did that statute take away, to quote the Constitution, as otherwise provided by law, does that statute otherwise provide by law that the governor can't appoint the lieutenant governor? And so yesterday in Jefferson City, a World War II veteran,
right,
and the Missouri Democratic Party filed a lawsuit, and their position is that that statute took away, it otherwise provided by law, it took away Governor Parsons' appointment power.
Right.
And that now Lieutenant Governor Kehoe, or as the Democrats refer to him, purported Lieutenant Governor Kehoe, the question is going to be decided by a Cole County judge and then presumably the Missouri Supreme Court.
Well, now, it seems to me, and I know you lawyers love to sort of argue, what the is and the where the comma is, but it seems to me pretty cut and dry.
Well, you would be good co-counsel for the Democratic Party. I think
a lot of people say that.
I think the Republican Party would say, not so fast, Mr. Milhaven.
Right.
And what they would say is the statute does not provide a mechanism for appointment of lieutenant governor. Mm-hmm. It has this funky provision that purports to carve out the lieutenant governor from this statute, but it doesn't otherwise provide. The is in this instance being the verb provide. So the Republicans would say, no, Mr. Milhaven, the Constitution gives the governor the power.
It's interesting because I'm a strict constitutionalist, and I believe that you follow the text. I'm not one of these willy-nilly guys to try and understand what they were thinking when they wrote the Constitution.
Well, if you're going to follow the text, I would suggest to you that you may have to switch sides in the case, because if you follow the text, then I think that the text would suggest the Constitution, which obviously has the prevailing authority, the Constitution says that this power to appoint rests in Governor Parson, unless it's otherwise taken away, my words, in the statute. And I think Justice Scalia, the quintessential originalist and textualist, would say—
The original originalist.
Sure, he would say, well, Mr. Milhaven, I think strictly reading, they did not otherwise provide in the statute how a lieutenant governor vacancy should be filled, and therefore Lieutenant Governor Kehoe is no longer purported.
We should say that Governor Nixon has thrown his opinion in on this, and he said that the governor does have a right to appoint the lieutenant governor.
He did take that, and interestingly enough, there was a statute several years ago that the legislature passed as to a vacancy in the lieutenant governorship, and Governor Nixon vetoed it. We have had, for example, I think it was 1968, the lieutenant governor was elected to another office. Governor Hearns purported to appoint a replacement lieutenant governor, and the Senate refused to seat him. So I think if we can take a step back, McGraw, it is reminiscent in an odd way with this immigration debate that you just talked on the air with Steve Roberts. And that is, you have a great clatter here in Missouri on the Republican side saying, well, the Constitution is clear. He has this power of appointment. And at the end of the day, if the legislature has a problem with it not being clear, then they, by golly, ought to step up and do their job and put a statute in that clarifies this current statute. Well, it's the same thing in the immigration debate.
So you're saying the legislature can pass a law reinstituting exactly how they feel?
Exactly. In other words, the Constitution, not only do they have a plenary power as the legislature in Missouri, but the power that's given to the governor in the Constitution is specifically subject, unless otherwise provided. Well, okay, if y'all have a problem with it, then do your job. And I would say the same thing.
Write a statute which we all can see where it is you're thinking.
If you have a problem, as a lot of people do, with how President Trump is enforcing the immigration laws, well, then do your job. And write a statute that remedies that situation.
Now, we should say that it's interesting for those who get caught up in the law, because the lieutenant governor, I have more power in the state than the lieutenant governor. He sits around, no disrespect to any lieutenant governor, but they wait if and when, God forbid, something were to happen.
Well, your point is well taken, but again, keep in mind, McGraw, as I just said a moment ago, we have had 11 vacancies in the lieutenant governorship, and this is reminiscent. Go back to we don't have to go too far back. 1963, 1945, the vice presidency of the United States was vacant for extended periods, and fortunately, that was remedied by the 25th Amendment to the United States Constitution, in terms of appointment of a vice president, and we've had to use it already twice. So you're right, the lieutenant governor does not have significant plenary powers, but by golly, is it an important constitutional office.
Cole County sure is a busy place these days. The Cole County Courthouse sure is busy. How long will it take for this judge to decide this? We're going to wait 6 years for this?
No, I think this... well, hard to predict, but the Cole County Circuit Court, they're terrific judges down there. I think it will move very quickly. Keep in mind, McGraw, we don't have to have a lot of testimony.
Right.
We don't have to have Scott Vaughn and Al Watkins and KS.
All they have to do is listen to this and make their decision.
But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So I think it's going to be measured in months, not weeks, but months, not years.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is why he is the best. Greg Willard, reading the tea leaves for us, explaining it all to us, whether or not we have a lieutenant governor or not. Greg Willard, thanks for coming in.
Great to be with you, my friend.